Thank you so much for joining us today on this podcast.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
As everyone has been seeing, virtual reality in general is like booming. What are you doing in this space, and how are you creating these types of experiences?
Yeah. I mean, it's been interesting. I mean, we've certainly seen a little bit of growth more recently in the immersive space, and we started out entirely focused on virtual reality. So it was late to 2014, and we were doing all 360-degree video. So a bunch of music experiences. We did a Hardwell live stream. We had a number of music videos from the major labels. And now is starting to kind of pick back up with more people being at home. And I think probably the escapism piece of it, people wanting to go to other worlds maybe.
Right.
We started live streaming artists starting in their bedrooms. Morgan
Right.
Page, we had Morgan Page streaming from his studio, and he's a Grammy nominated EDM artist, and he was just streaming from his home studio, and that turned into live streaming Electric Daisy Carnival and Digital Mirage, and Porter Robinson's Secret Sky Festival. So just in a few months, we went from no live music to lots of live music every weekend. So it's been an interesting kind of shift over the last couple of years, but we've really tried to listen to what the market is saying and adjust to it based on what we're seeing.
Yeah, and I think that's really smart.
So we've done some experiences like that where you basically put a ball of cameras on stage at a show and record everything, and then when you bring it back into a virtual reality headset, it's like you're sitting on stage with the artists. So you can't interact with them in any way, but it's like a more immersive way to be on stage with the artist.
You kind of are like put in their perspective and see kind of what they see.
Yeah. What's it like to be on stage at a music festival with the artist while they're performing?
And what are some of those things or lessons that you've learned from that experience?
Yeah. Well, one is live is hard. No matter what people say, even just being on site and having a really simple single camera that's streaming. A lot of venues have really terrible internet, and it's like if you go to a small bar and try to do a live show from there that's going to be live streamed, a lot of times their internet connection is not very good. So there's a lot of, if you want to execute a really well done high quality show, you have to make sure that you're testing quite a bit beforehand. And from the experience side, 360-degree video and even 180-degree video is really difficult for people to capture and stream. You need more substantial equipment on site to do it well, because you have to like stitch the video together in real time and distribute it as a single stream, and it's a lot harder to do. So what we did was we started creating VR environments that are animated, and we've been doing a lot of EDM. So we've thought a lot about how you can execute more immersive experiences at scale. And one thing that artists can do is they can set up a computer. A lot of them know how to stream somewhere. They can set up a computer with a camera and capture that and send it out to the world. Most artists are savvy enough to do that. And so we've taken the approach of, let's take the traditional live stream, the video, and we can deliver that to the PlayStation, Android TV, Apple TV, iOS, mobile, etc., the web. But then we can take that same stream and bring it into these immersive theaters, essentially. And the theaters can be branded. They can have the matching colors of the event. They can have, like Insomniac did Electric Daisy Carnival, and it was kind of like a vaporwave, kind of like Outrun type theme, and lots of like wireframe 3D model, like pink and purple, and it was really
Trippy.
cool.
Yeah.
So we modified a VR environment that if you did have a VR headset, then you could go into this environment and like look around. You'd be surrounded by these pulsating visuals, but then you could see the artists on the screen, and it's like a floating screen that's like kind of, it's like going to a drive-in theater or like having your own personal IMAX,
Right.
but the IMAX theater around you is like psychedelic world. So our approach has been figure out how to take in the music being the most important part, and having good quality visuals, and making sure that that connection is really strong and that the stream looks really good
Hmm.
and high quality, but then try to bring it into a more immersive environment that we can play around with and create that experience that way, instead of putting it on the artists, which is a little bit out of the wheelhouse in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Um, so like speaking about like, the whole like live streaming aspect of it and just getting artists involved, especially the ones that don't have like access to studios or the green screens or any of the frills,
Mhm.
how can they prepare for it? What are some like best practices that they can take into account now to be
Yeah.
prepared for something like your environment?
Yeah. I mean, we work with broadcasting software that uh, there's everything from free to paid. I mean, Open Broadcaster (OBS)
Hmm.
is very easy to use and configure, and that it works with webcams. That it even has a mobile app that you can get the pro version for $5.99 and set up your iPhone on a tripod and turn on Wirecast. I think is the one that's on iPhone. That's really good. Um, it's $5.99. Hook it up on your iPhone, and you can push it into our backend. So that's it at the simplest level. But the
Hmm.
simplest is get familiar with the broadcasting software and set up a good quality camera with some basic decent lighting. We've also done, like, Morgan Page had his phone basically as one of the cameras, and he had some automatic kind of switching software that was going between two cameras,
Mm.
and and then he set it up so that, like, he had his broadcaster software that was broadcasting out to, I think it was, there's a couple companies that do this. One of them is called Restream, another one's called Push Live, and we can also do this. But basically, ingesting the stream and then
Hmm.
saying that you want it to go to your Facebook page or YouTube page, Twitch, Littlstar, whatever. So you can syndicate to multiple different platforms all at once, and we've seen a lot of people start to do that. I guess another piece of that is to understand the rights on the different platforms. I know Twitch recently had issues with performance rights licenses, and so
Mm.
all the DJs that were playing events on the shows that were going through Twitch were getting shut down. They were getting copyright strikes because the labels thought that Twitch didn't have the rights to be doing what they were doing.
And how do you create an environment for them to then push it out
Yeah.
to viewers?
Yep. So we have a few kind of basic ones that we made, and they're basically just Unity environments. Unity is a game engine, and we have our applications for VR headsets are built in Unity as well. So instead of it being a full blown game where you're running around killing zombies, it's just an interface to navigate content. And if you happen to have a VR headset, you can jump into these VR rooms to consume content. And so if you're going to watch an EDM show, we created this little club environment that is it was really basic, but it was just to, like, test the waters.
Hmm.
And but if you have a VR headset on and you go sit in this virtual club, it's like the lights are animating and things like that. So we used that in the first few shows, and then we expanded on that with like Secret Sky, Porter
Hmm.
Robinson, and And then, yeah, like Insomniac and Digital Mirage. And each one of those, we had custom environments that were basically these Unity assets that had the environment that was animated and, fit the style of the show.
How is being an artist, how does that affect, the way you do business and like your own path in entrepreneurship?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was really, I had kind of two paths going on. I was producing music while I was in college and DJing. I mean, I started DJing when I was like 16, borrowed turntables from my dad and my friend's dad and started DJing like just in the bedroom. And but I went to school and I went to college for computer engineering. So I kind of had these two worlds that were running in parallel for so long. And then eventually I said, well, this needs to be media technology and combine those worlds. And so, now I find myself having a good understanding of the creative side and what that means to create a place for people to tell stories and for, somebody to have creative freedom and not limit them as a platform.
And one of the bigger ones that you have mentioned earlier was the Digital Mirage with Brownies and Lemonade.
That's right.
I also didn't get to see that, but I know that one was really cool because you guys were able to raise money for COVID relief for musicians. How did that partnership work?
The first few events were charity driven. I think across the board, the whole industry looked at performance basically going to zero at live events and having to move into streaming. And so lots of charitable events started happening. And, we've helped raise like over $1 million for different charities. And we basically bring in the stream and then we just work with the charity partner. We don't try to take the money in ourselves. And so what we've been talking about now, and I think is going to be really important for the music industry is, ticketing is a big source of revenue. If you put that in the context of these events that are charity driven, a lot of times the artists are donating their time, and we're leaning pretty heavily into how we can start to charge for some of these events because the way we see it, and I think the way that the artists see it and the music industry should see it is that, I'll rent a movie for $3.99. I should be willing to pay to watch Electric Daisy Carnival, which is 3 10-hour days of music. Like, why wouldn't I pay $10 to watch that? And the thing that I think the music industry has to be really careful of is trying to give away free shows. That needs to slow down and or stop. That's how we've been thinking about the combination of events plus live streaming, is that some of these events might be more intimate. Some people are going to be scared to go back to major events for years, potentially, until there's a vaccine and this has gone away entirely. How do you make up for that? And live streaming the event and having people pay, even if it's a reduced price, I think can help offset that. And, we even see it as an opportunity of like windowing. You have windowing in the film business but those windows are well established. There are different economic terms in each one of them. You can leverage them in different regions of the world. You can leverage exclusivity. So like these theaters are going to get this movie and then this streaming platform is going to get it first and they're going to pay extra for it. And then other streaming platforms are going to get it next and they'll pay for it. And then it'll fall into TV, where TV will pay a smaller amount for it. They're getting basically the last window and they're going to ad support it. And so music doesn't have that really. It's like a weird kind of thing that artists will put out a record and it's out.
Yep.
it's out. Like they try to get it everywhere all at the same time. And like, there is no theater moment in the music business. And live music events are a little bit different, because when you go to the show, it's potentially, you know, a year of planning that's gone into it. The spectacle is just massive and ridiculous and loud and incredible. But then after the show is over, there's no second window for music, for live music. The bigger spectacle is in person and it's more expensive, but then you can get access to that show after the fact and watch it again, but just in different formats and monetized in different ways. So, yeah.
I think you're onto something there, because as a like huge passionate festival fan like myself, I remember even going to like Lollapalooza a couple of years ago, and they had some live streams mainly for the main stages, but it was really hard to find unless you were trying, and the only other option was to view the performances by people who were in the crowd who didn't have this high quality camera, and it was shaking because they're dancing, and it's loud because they're yelling.
Right.
So I think that's I think that's a really interesting concept that I really didn't think about before.
Yeah. No, it's how do you take the natural dynamics that are happening in the industry and create revenue opportunities for everybody, for the artists, for the promoters, for the labels, you know, and those types of things I feel like are starting to emerge and happen more aggressively with the whole coronavirus stuff.
Yeah, I honestly think out of all the industries, music is going to improve like drastically. Thank you so much for being on this episode, The Setup.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Yeah, this was awesome.